Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. As I previously mentioned, my name is Brian Aloise, and I'm very happy to be speaking with you today on behalf of your United States Senator Joe Manchin III. Before we get started, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the representatives of the Federal Emergency Management Agency on the call today for partnering with our office on this webinar. We have Lori Bainbridge, Lynn Newman, and Phil Maramba with us. So thank you guys so much for your help. We have no doubt that a lot of great information is going to be shared today. And Senator Manchin wholly appreciates FEMA's participation. So thank you guys. I would also like to thank State Fire Marshal Kenneth Tyree and his wonderful staff for helping us spread the word about today's webinar. Senator Manchin, wholly appreciate you. Would you like to say a few words, Marshal Tyree?
I'll be brief. Thank you very much, Brian, and appreciate Senator Manchin, the great work that's done to always secure the funding for safer assistance to firefighter grants, and just grateful for the fire service to have the opportunity in West Virginia to participate in the process and to have the successes, but also, like true West Virginians, never giving up in their application process to pursue needed funding for keeping their folks safe and their communities safe. So thanks so much, and appreciate participation and supporting always this cause of fire safety and response.
Thank you, sir. Well, as you mentioned, Senator Manchin believes we must continue to ensure our first responders throughout the state have the necessary equipment and resources to do their jobs safely and effectively. And today we're going to be talking about just that. The grant programs outlined today during this webinar can provide you with the essential resources you need to keep both your community safe and yourself safe. So one thing I wanted to note before we dive in, our office is always happy to provide letters of support to make your applications more attractive. And that goes for FEMA grants as well as, USDA grants. So Department of Highways grants, HHS grants, any federal grants that you guys are interested in taking advantage of. Our office is always happy to do letters of support to make your applications more attractive. So for more information about those letters of support, please contact Senator Manchin's Charleston office at 304-342-5855. Again, that is 304-342-5855. So during today's webinar, FEMA is going to be discussing the goals of assistance to firefighters grants, staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grants, fire prevention and safety grants, along with the importance of the system of award management registration and notice of funding opportunity and grant resources. FEMA's presentation will be immediately followed by a question and answer session. In order to submit a question, please click the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen there if you are in full screen mode. And there you can submit your questions. If you're not in full screen mode, you'll have to click the More button, and that'll open up a menu for you. And we just ask that you click that Q&A option and submit your questions in that Q&A selection. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Lori Bainbridge, FEMA Region 3 Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program Lead. Lori?
Thank you very much. And on behalf of Mary Ann Tierney, our regional administrator, we'd like to thank Senator Manchin's office for hosting this webinar so we can get the word out and virtually touch base with all of our West Virginia fire departments. I will stay on video as long as I don't see any dips in the bandwidth. If it does, it's more important to get the information out in the slides than it is to see my face. So with that, we'll start the program. Next slide, please. Today, we're going to discuss the assistance to firefighter grants, staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grants known as SAFER, and then, of course, the fire prevention and safety grants, FP&S. We will have the question and answer period, as Brian said, after this presentation. Next slide, please. The fiscal year FY 2022 Assistance Firefighter Grant, which is the last open application period we had, is one of 3 grant programs that constitute the Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency focus on enhancing the safety of the public and firefighters with respect to fire and fire-related hazards. The AFG program provides financial assistance directly to eligible fire departments, non-affiliated emergency medical services, and state fire training academies for critical training and equipment. Next slide, please. The AFG program represents part of a comprehensive set of measures authorized by Congress and implemented by DHS. Among the 5 basic Homeland Security missions noted in the DHS strategic plan for fiscal years 2020 to 2024, the AFG program supports the goal of strengthening preparedness and resilience. In awarding grants, the FEMA administrator is required to consider the findings and recommendations of the technical evaluation panel, the degree to which the award will reduce deaths, injuries, and property damage by reducing the risks associated with fire-related and other hazards, the extent of an applicant's need for an AFG program grant, and the need to protect the United States as a whole, and the number of calls requesting and requiring a firefighting or emergency medical response received by an applicant. In 2021, the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, published a needs assessment survey. It highlighted challenges that departments across the nation faced with a lack of equipment, training, and health programs. The results revealed that nearly 2/3 of departments have firefighters wearing personal protective clothing that is 10 years old or older. 21% of the personnel who performed emergency medical services were not certified. 72% of departments do not have programs to maintain basic firefighter health and fitness, and 73% of all departments in the U.S. do not have a behavioral health program. Next slide, please. Since FY 2018, the AFG program has awarded more than 600 fire apparatus, 102,000 personal protective equipment items, and 124,000 other fire equipment to over 3,800 unique recipients. During this same time period, the AFG program awarded 588 recipients approximately $90 million to modify fire department facilities or implement wellness and fitness priorities. This protects the health of firefighters. Information about success stories for this program can be found at the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program website. The objectives of the AFG program are to provide critically needed resources that equip and train emergency personnel to recognize standards, enhance operational efficiencies, and foster interoperability and support community resilience. Next slide, please. Staffing for adequate fire and emergency response provides funding to fire departments to increase staffing to meet national standards, either through hiring full-time staff or the recruitment and retention of volunteers. Safer grants fund fire departments and volunteer firefighter interest organizations directly to help them increase capacity in their communities. The objectives of the SAFER program are to assist local fire departments with staffing and deployment capabilities to respond to emergencies and ensure that communities have adequate protection from fire and fire-related hazards. Local fire departments accomplish this by improving staffing and deployment capabilities so that they are more effective and safely respond. Next slide, please. Fire prevention and safety provides funding to bolster fire prevention activities within a municipality. It also has a research and development component to fund studies that could impact the fire service and firefighter safety. Next slide, please. The objectives of the Fire Prevention and Safety Program are to provide critically needed resources to carry out fire prevention, education, and training, fire code enforcement, fire arson investigation, firefighter safety and health programming, strategic national projects, prevention efforts, and research and development. And while we know that fire prevention and safety isn't as much the glamorous side of fire service with these three grant programs, when you have a well-placed program, you cut down on your fires. So it's a benefit to your community. Next slide, please. The Assistance to Firefighter Help Desk number is listed here, as is the Fire Grants website. There's also a sign up for alerts. They've been called newsletters, e-blasts, etc. But this link is used to sign up to get the most pertinent information for all of the three programs. Next slide, please. And this is my information, as well as my colleague Dan Mulville's information. I have oversight over District of Columbia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. And Dan has Maryland and Virginia. These email address, phone numbers are for fire department, non-affiliated EMS, State Fire Training Academy contacts. If you are state or congressional offices, please go through our external affairs for contact as we log all of our outreach. And now with that, next slide. It's the end of the presentation, and I am open to any question and answers.
Thank you, Lori, for that information. We don't have any questions yet in the Q&A box. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you can type your questions into the Q&A box, I will read those aloud and pose those to Lori. That Q&A box is located at the bottom of your screen. There is a Q&A tab that you can click and pose your questions to FEMA. If you are not in full screen mode, you need to click the More tab, and that will open up a menu for you to select the Q&A option. So it looks like some of these questions are coming in now, Lori. So we'll start here with Mr. Harold Talbert. Is there any way to find out what we need to improve our grant applications?
If you've received turn down letters in the past, if you read down through the letter, there was a link that gave you the regional resource and suggested that you reach out and schedule a time to go over information from past applications. I checked my files yesterday, and I do have information from FY20 and FY21. So if you reach out and provide 3 or 4 dates, times that you're available, unfortunately, it needs to be between 6 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. I work 10-hour days, and that should hopefully cover some of the people who work during the day and get off. Otherwise, we can possibly make arrangements for discussing what is in the turn down information, but we are not authorized overtime to do things like that.
Thank you, Lori. Our next question is from Ruth Lanier. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Can county commissions apply on behalf of fire departments?
Eligible organizations are the fire department, non-affiliated EMS, state fire training academies. If you have a relationship with your fire department, they need to be the host of the application. But as part of our outreach, and I also know that not everyone on this call is a fire department or EMS related, we are encouraging fire departments to reach out to their municipalities, other resources available in their communities, in their counties, for grant writing, because one of our equity site visit determinations, things that we heard overall in all our states, was that fire departments, especially volunteer, don't feel that they have the time to apply or administer an award after they receive it. So I would answer that with, please partner with your local fire departments, whether career, combination, or volunteer, and have them host the application, but write it and possibly administer it with a joint agreement that the fire department is the applicant.
Thank you, Lori. Our next question is from Amanda Simmons. For the SAFER grant, is there a possibility for EMS providers to also apply if they are not a part of fire departments as well? I have been told yes as well as no.
SAFER is handled at headquarters, as is fire prevention and safety. And because the regions handle the assistance to firefighter grants, AFG, I would suggest that you look at the notice of funding opportunity on our website, same website, which is www.fema.gov/firegrants, and see exactly how the eligible organization is worded. I believe it's only fire departments, but because the regions don't handle SAFER, I am not as up to date as I should be on SAFER notice of funding opportunity.
Okay, our next question is from Noah Allen. I am unfamiliar with the fire prevention and safety grant. Can you give a couple examples of typical projects that fire departments apply for through that program?
The most common, again, this is handled at headquarters, but I have participated over the past 22 years with this program. The most common project, I would say, is either your training for your officials, inspectors, marshals, etc., as well as smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. If you look on the website, there are success stories for fire prevention and safety, for SAFER, and for AFG that can give you ideas, as well as going through the award lists, which will give you details of the awards.
Okay, our next question is from Robbie Bailey. In regards to purchasing requirements, can fire departments utilize existing state purchasing contracts to purchase their items and still be in line with what is required of them with their AFG award? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And
Okay.
according to the Notice of Funding Opportunity, every fire department, non-affiliated EMS, and state fire training organization, which we know the state's covered, is supposed to have a written procurement policy. If your written procurement policy allows you to buy on state contract, then yes, you can. If you don't have a written procurement policy, you don't have the information backed up that allows you and equates you to a state being able to use the state contract, then no, you are technically not supposed to do. The information is listed in 2 CFR 200, and if you go to the NOFOs prior to 2021, it has the actual procurement standard printed in the whole Notice of Funding Opportunity, and you don't have to search for it online. However, 2 CFR 200 is available online. You can Google it, and it's very easily searchable by word.
Our next question is from David Armstrong, and he asks, a lot of departments don't have the funds to hire a grant writer. Are there any options out there for assistance with this? If so, can you provide those resources? And Lori, I was hoping to take this one if that's okay.
Go for it.
There was recently announced a new group through our higher education institutions, WVU and Marshall. These groups are known as the Grant Resource Centers. My understanding is that there's one in Huntington and one at WVU. And these have been set up to help small municipalities and counties that lack the resources to go after these federal funding opportunities to help navigate them through the process. So I would encourage you to search West Virginia Grant Resource Centers online and learn more about that relatively new program that I think is going to do a lot for these smaller communities that lack capacity to start going after these federal funding opportunities. So let's see, where's our next question? Glenn Chapman asks, we are a municipal police agency. We currently run EMS calls, and all funding has come from our budget for training and equipment. Would SAFER apply in this case, or should I seek funding elsewhere?
I would suggest seeking funding elsewhere because the police department is not eligible under any of the AFG umbrella.
Our next question is from Jimmy Jeanette. Are regional proposals looked on more favorably?
Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? Long time no talk to you. Regional proposals, depending on what they're for. We have, as most people know, if you go through our Notice of Funding Opportunity, there are high, medium, and low priorities. We have not funded out of the high priority category ever, and I don't foresee that in the near future. regional projects, depending on the number of people that are going to potentially benefit, the square mileage of the jurisdictions going to benefit, may have a higher impact and may get a slightly higher score. Just because it's a regional project doesn't mean that it'll be looked on more favorably. And if you go to our website, the notice of funding opportunities are there. There's self-evaluation sheets for operation and safety and vehicle acquisition, as well as an application checklist, your narrative get ready guide, and your cost share calculator. All of these items we develop and update every year because we know that there are questions that people don't feel as confident. They feel that they need a grant writer. And I will tell you, I've been involved in this process since the first application period, where I sat with my fire department and we filled out an application. I participated in 2 of the first 3 peer review weeks down at the National Emergency Training Center in Maryland. And I was fortunate enough to meet the people from DC who were running the program and have input into the program. Eventually, when they hired regional fire program specialists, I was one of the first ones. So I have been through this process in all aspects, and it is time consuming. It sometimes gets a little confusing, but that's why you have your regional staff as well as the help desk staff available to answer the questions. No, we cannot fill out the application for you. No, I will not review your application because that means I have to review 20,000 of them. And I don't have time for that, I'm sorry, but we are here to answer questions. Join in the national webinars. The link I provided that gave you the newsletter e-blast will also give you the schedules for the national webinars and how to jump on, register, and be part of them. We did 54 last year. I was part of 52 of them.
Lori, we have a few questions here about the system for award management. This question is from Craig Mullen. Our department received an award many years ago. I have tried logging on to the new system, but cannot do so. Can you please advise who I should contact to help us get logged in?
If you don't have an active SAM account, if you've not set up your FEMA Go account, once your SAM information with your business positions, your authorized organizational representative, AOR, etc., is filled out, SAM.gov feeds into FEMA Go. And if there is not an active FEMA Go account, you won't be able to log on because there's nothing to log on to. You can look in SAM.gov, I am told, and see if you have an active registration, and it'll give the information as to who the points of contact are. Then you work with those people to update your SAM.gov and filter through to FEMA Go.
This next question, Lori, is from Mitch Oldacre. Does your fire department need to have paid staff in place prior to applying for a SAFER grant? In other words, can a volunteer fire department become a combination department with the use of a SAFER grant?
That is part of the reason for the SAFER grants. And the answer to that is yes. Otherwise, recruitment and retention are fully available for volunteer fire departments.
As a follow-up to that question about the SAFER grants, Matthew Matthews would like to know, do you need matching funds for the SAFER grants?
I believe SAFER still has a match. I am not 100% positive. I know at one point it was waived for a while. However, please remember that the idea of the SAFER grant is that once the grant has expired and been used, that sustainability of the firefighters that were hired with SAFER will be retained by the jurisdiction, fire department, etc.
Our next question is from Melissa Smith. Do fire departments apply for these grant opportunities directly through FEMA, or do they have to apply through a state agency?
We do not. We are the only grant that goes directly to the local level fire department, non-affiliated EMS, State Fire Training Academy, of course, is through the state. However, we go directly, and the state is not the recipient with pass-throughs. So the state is not involved other than state fire training academies.
Noah Allen asks, can a fire department apply for multiple high priority items on one grant? For example, air system and rescue tools. And if so, and if the grant scores high for one item and low for another, will AFG fund the high scoring item or reject the entire grant?
Again, read the notice of funding opportunity, which adequately explains that. The answer is yes, you may apply for multiple high priority items. If one scores lower than another or is below the fundable range, it will not negate your whole entire application.
Our next question, and Lori, I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, but do you expect to announce soon the next round for AFG grant opening dates?
We do not know when the next round of AFG opening dates will happen. It is going through the process at FEMA headquarters, and we do not have any information on the dates as of yet. Let me jump on that though. You can start your applications. You can read the most recent notice of funding opportunity. There will not be huge changes. You can update your statistics, your demographics, the age of the equipment that you're going to apply for, and you can be ready for that application, ready to fill it out. I always like to emphasize that the first application in does not get awarded 10 points, and the last application in the time frame available does not get deducted any points. However, if you are not able to get your application in by usually 5 p.m. Eastern time on the last date of the application period, they do not extend the application period regardless of the reason that you didn't get your application in. So the sooner you get it in, the sooner you get your confirmation saying it was received, and then you can rest easy knowing that your application was actually submitted correctly.
Our next question is from Anita Gilroy. Which of these grant programs would we be able to take advantage of to potentially get a new apparatus. I assume maybe she means an engine. If she wanted to follow up
Well, it
on,
could be any, it's a vehicle. Apparatus is a vehicle.
okay,
It would be a high priority vehicle, depending on whether you're volunteer, career, or combination. These are all separate pots of money in both the vehicle category and the rest of the AFG operations categories. You would use AFG. That would be the only program that vehicles are allowable under. Up to 25% of the overall funding is all that is allowed to be awarded for apparatus in AFG. That's part of the statute that created the program. And it is highly competitive. It's based on your jurisdiction, based on your number of fire calls, number of active firefighters, and the demographic information, age of your oldest and newest apparatus. What is called a leader is set up in the volunteer, the career, and the combination pots, and everyone in every category is ranked and stacked against this leader. I don't want to confuse it. The volunteer pot, you are competing only against volunteers. Same with career, same with combination. We have done analysis since 2018, and the pots of money are spread pretty consistently between 31 and 33%. So you are not, if you're a volunteer department, competing against career departments. That's a misconception that people often have. But it is very, very, very hard to get a vehicle, especially with base vehicles going well over $1 million now.
Our next question is from Ruth. All docs on the SAFER website reference FY21. Is that the current application? And does the application change a lot from year to year? Again,
SAFER is handled at headquarters. That would be a question by calling the AFG help desk, which is still the same number, whether it's SAFER Fire Prevention AFG at 866-274-0960. And I cannot answer that, so sorry.
I think you may have addressed this already, Lori, but I'll go ahead and pose it to you anyway. And keep those questions coming, folks. We have about 20 more minutes if you have any follow-up questions. Is there any assistance for past applicants to get help on why their submitted application was not funded?
Again, that would be the turn down webinars. The FY22 letters are not out yet. That is being worked on and going through the greater FEMA process at headquarters. As soon as they are available, you will get the letters in your email and your FEMA Go account. You should read the entire letter, follow the instructions to receive turn down information from your regional rep, West Virginia, that's me. As we said before, I do have some information from 20 and 21, and you can call me with a few potential dates and times.
And I think that answer there addresses two other questions that we have. Have all the SAFER FY 2022 grant awards been awarded? And if we have not yet been turned down for the 2022 AFG grant, are we still in the running for funding? I think that those letters that you mentioned just now kind of address those questions as well, correct?
AFG FY 2022 is complete. SAFER and fire prevention I cannot speak to. but I believe they are close if they are not finished awarding. Again, turn down letters are in process.
Sean Thorne was hoping that you could explain more about volunteer fire department recruitment and retention grant program.
Again, a safer program handled at headquarters, and I suggest reading the notice of funding opportunity. I know in the past that recruitment and retention has a lot of different categories that are funded or could be potentially be funded to help you maintain and recruit firefighters, because as we know, the volunteer fire source resources are dwindling, and most firefighters, regardless of paid status, work 2 to 3 jobs, and there's not a lot of time left for volunteering and or doing firefighting activities.
And I think that answer addresses the last 2 questions in our Q&A box. What are the requirements for the Safer Grant Awards, and can Safer grants be used to purchase LED electronic signs as long as they are used for retention?
That is something that I'm not sure in FY22 was still eligible. I know past Safer awards, it's been discussed, but again, I suggest reading the notice of funding opportunity. I will say something about the notice of funding opportunity. It is a very long document. I know it's a long document because when people call me with questions, I have to search it. I print it in PDF format on my computer and do a word search for the area that I'm looking for. A lot of the information contained in the notice of funding opportunity is your application all the way through the closeout of your award. Everything you need to know about the grant cycle is contained in the notice of funding opportunity. With that being said, you don't necessarily have to read the entire notice of funding opportunity when you're applying. Look at the sections that pertain to the application. And it doesn't matter if it's Safer, Fire Prevention and Safety, or AFG. Look at the application sections, and I believe Appendix A is the bulk of the application information for AFG. It may change when the new NOFO is out, but again, you don't have to go through the entire grant cycle if you're just doing the application. Yes, you should be aware that there are administrative requirements. There are reporting requirements. You may be monitored. You have a 2-year period of performance, which you will not be able to close out early. And it gives the elements of the items you're asking for. Look for high priority items. You'll be required to write 4 narratives if you follow the notice of funding opportunity and then jump on the national webinars. The slides used in the national webinars that are only available through the national webinars for download kind of outline your narrative. So yes, you can do a successful application without being a grant writer. It does take time. It does take reading and deciphering the notice of funding opportunity and asking questions of the resources that are available, along with using the resources on our website. It is time consuming, but yes, everything is there that you need to know. It's knowing where to look for it, and I start with word search.
Thank you, Lori. We have one question here in the Q&A box. What grant would be the best to apply for if a county was to hire county firefighters to respond for the entire county to assist volunteer departments that are short-staffed?
If the county department would not have oversight over the volunteer departments, if the county department does not have its own apparatus, its own building, its own funding stream, jurisdiction, all the things that make it an eligible organization, then it would probably need to have a fire department host or a regional application for a fire department host. Again, safer, and you would have to look in the specific details. But as far as AFG goes, where it would pertain to PPE, equipment, etc., the requirements for the eligible organization are very specific. You can partner, you can add in, but it is very specific as to the elements needed.
And Lori, I'm not seeing any more questions. Oh, never mind. I spoke too soon. Can a fire association, let's see here. Can a fire association
All volunteer fire department in a county be a grant host?
Yeah.
I think that's what that says, because that's how I type.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I type just like that. It depends, again, on the eligibility of the program. You're not saying what they're going to be a host for, what you're applying for. So it would depend on the application. There are circumstances with which county entities may apply on behalf of the local fire departments. So it would depend on which program and what you're applying for.
Well, Lori, I think that's all the questions that we have. We have 10 more minutes if anybody wants to get some in real quick. But thank you so much for sharing this information. I think it's wonderful information for the first responders throughout the state to have. And I know I speak on behalf of a grateful senator and a grateful state when I say we wholly appreciate you taking time out of your day to share this information with our first responders throughout the state. So thank you very much.
No, this is what I'm here for. And let me get one last plug in for reach out to your community, reach out to your people that are in your jurisdiction that may not be able to go through firefighter training, don't enjoy running into burning buildings. I don't know why. It takes care of split ends. It's wonderful. I miss it tremendously after 27 years in the fire service in 2 different states, but you know, it's not for everybody. However, those people may have the time to help you write a grant or administer a grant. And I know from my own fire department that we were very picky about who we brought on, and if they weren't an active firefighter and this and that. Well, times are changing, our resources are getting to be less and less, and our need is always greater. We've always done more with less. Maybe there's somebody in your community that can help you write the grant applications and administer them that you can trust, that will be able to give you the time to fight the fires and do the fun stuff in the fire service. And I hate to say it that way, but we all feel that way.
I'm gonna butcher this name. Dione Allen. She had a terrific suggestion. For those on the call, reach out to your local regional planning and development councils for grant writing assistance. There are 11 councils, I believe, kind of scattered throughout the state, and they are set up for communities, municipalities, counties, organizations that lack the capacity to navigate the grant writing process. So if you get on Google and search Regional Planning Development Council, West Virginia, you can find the one that serves your county or your area and reach out to them for grant writing assistance. So thank you, Ms. Allen, for that suggestion. That was a wonderful suggestion.
And she put the link in there as well.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and copy and paste that into the chat so everybody can see it. There we go. And ladies and gentlemen, that I think concludes today's webinar. Thank you so much for participating and for all you do for the Mountain State. On behalf of a grateful senator, a grateful state, and a grateful people, keep up the terrific work, and please let us know if our office can ever be of assistance to you. I mentioned at the start of this call that we're always happy to do letters of support to make your grant applications more attractive. So if you'd like more information about those letters of support, please call Senator Manchin's Charleston office at 304-342-5855. Again, that's 304-342-5855. And I did want to note that this webinar has been recorded and will be shared for anyone who may have missed the webinar or may have had technical difficulties. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. We wholly appreciate it. And thank you, Lori. We appreciate you.
And Brian, right before everyone hangs up, this is Lynn Newman with FEMA External Affairs. Wanted to say thank you again, Brian, your team, the office of Senator Joe Manchin for hosting this webinar. And we truly hope, and thank you, Lori, we truly hope that the great information that was shared was a help. You know, we look forward to continuing to work with your office, to continue to support your constituents and continue to build our relationship with your office. So thank you again.
Thank you. How could I forget you, Lynn? I apologize. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Marshall Tyree, thank you for joining us today and helping us spread the word about the webinar. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you, and great job to all.
All righty. Everybody have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.